Hi everyone, this is Jan, and today I'm going to start a little pansy painting for you. I'm on a 10 by 10 canvas board here, and I am using Jann Art acrylics, and I also am using the Jann extender medium. This is a liquid form. It's going to keep my painting nice and wet for me, so I can do more or less a Bob Ross style of painting where everything stays wet for you. And I first did a coat of a light blue gray. This is it right here. You can see it over here and over here. And I used a sponge on this. Any type of sponge is good. If you have some of these sponges. And I mixed up some white, a lot of white, a little bit of phthalo blue or ultramarine blue, and a dab of burnt sienna. And that made kind of a blue-gray color. And then I mixed some of the extender with it and mixed it all up. You can see it on my palette right here. Then I dipped the sponge in it and I just put it onto the backdrop of my canvas. Okay, and while it's still wet, what I did was mix up some other colors. I have a cad yellow light here, and then I mixed a little white for the highlight. So I have cad yellow light. I have a violet color that you can mix up with just some blue and a violet. I have a sap green mixed up with just your pine green or thicket and a little bit of burnt sienna and maybe a dab of ultramarine blue or phthalo blue. Then I made a turquoise color with my phthalo green and some white and came up with a turquoise color. And while this is still wet, I have a 3/4 inch brush here. And I just went ahead, I wet it first, blot it, dip it in a little extender here and work that extender into the brush. And then I went ahead and went the light colors and then went ahead and went out and did these other colors. And I just used a vertical stroke going back and forth until I got the colors I wanted. These are the yellows, the lavenders, the turquoise, and the greens are down here. Okay, and you can see that my canvas is still wet. See that shine? That means it's wet. Okay, and you want it to remain wet, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in next and I'm going to go ahead and put in some of these leaves here. And I want that to be wet while I do that because of the overstroke that I'm using. So go ahead and get this on your canvas here. And once you get that on, while it's still shiny and wet, I'll show you how to do leaves next. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add leaves all around our pansy while it's still wet. And what I like to do is go ahead and put my paint on the brush, and I have some of this dark green here. You can use a sap green or mix up your own sap green with your pine green, ultramarine blue, and a little bit of burnt, and that will make a really nice sap green. Then I went ahead and worked my brush in a chisel here, and I made a vine first, or vein, and then I made a triangle like this. Okay, then go ahead and load paint on your brush, and I'm going to start right out here at this edge of this triangle. I'm going to touch my brush and I'm going to pull up like that. Okay, now I'm going to intermix maybe another color, and I'm going to touch out here. And we're going to pull in, touch, and pull. Okay, I'm going to wipe my brush off a little bit, let's go ahead and load up a little more dark green. And as I work down, I'm going to pull up like that. Touch and pull. We're going to pull right to the center there. Okay. Let me do that stroke over. Now it's okay. You can go ahead and have this a little bit closer. Okay, now what you have is your little leaf there. Now let's say you want to highlight that leaf a little bit. Maybe I want a little yellow on it. So I'm going to pick up yellow, and we're going to tip it in some yellow. Let's put a little yellow back here. You can just edge that yellow part if you want to. Now if you have other colors in here that you want to put on this leaf, I could add some lighter green. I have several colors mixed up here. I have some light yellow, some sagey colors, some turquoise. I even have some blue, and I have a little bit lighter color right there. So you can play around with some of these colors. Now, a lot of times I like to let this sit. Once I get my leaf on there, I like to let it set up just a little bit, and then I'll come back and I'll go ahead and highlight these leaves again, or I'll add more darks to them. Okay, let's do another little bitty one right next to it. So again, we're going to do a vein like that. Come over here. Kind of reminds me of a kite, huh? Yeah. Okay, go as long as you're going to do that. Just going to wipe the brush off. Now at this point you have background color on here. You could actually probably just use your medium. Use some medium. Let's see. And you could just come back. Do your stroke. And you could use a little medium on there. You don't even have to use very much paint because you're going to be pulling up. See, touch. Can you? Let me see if I can get at an angle here where you can see it. I'm just taking little bits of paint here. Okay, little bits of this dark green. There, you can see it a little better. And I like to vary my petals so that they're not all the same length. Okay, and then stand your brush on a chisel, and then go ahead and put your vein in. Keep wanting to call it a stem. I guess it is a stem if you, depending on what you're doing at the time. Let's do another one going this way. Tut. Okay, pull it as long as you want. That's how big your leaf is going to be. This will be how wide it's going to be. I'm picking up a little green. Let's pick up a little turquoise maybe. So touch right out here. Let's see. Trying to see if I can get out of the way here so that you can see this. Touch right out here. Touch, press down, and pull into a point. Okay, touch over here, press down, turn up into a point right into that center part. Okay, touch, pull to the center. Let's get a yellow one in here. Like that, touch, pull into the center. How about a little blue? Ooh, that's pretty. Okay, and then pull into the center. And then load your brush to a chisel, and you go ahead and put your little vein in your leaf. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and complete this with a lot of different leaves. I'm going to put them all around. I may decide to put another part of a pansy up here. I think it looks kind of lonely up here, so I think I will go ahead and sketch in part for a pansy, and let me show you how to do that. And I can just do kind of like a little circle so that I can get the size that I want. Okay, right there. Okay, and my center's going to be right here. Okay, and what I will do is go ahead and take off the paint that I have right here because it is still wet with me. So I can change my mind on that. Now what I do when I want to take something out is I just go ahead and grab me a little Q-tee, and I have some right here. Now I like the fluffy Q-tees, and these Q-tees that I have a real sharp little tip to them. See these? Okay, I kind of like the fluffy ones, and then what I do is I twist it. Okay, anyway, I would do this, and then I would just go ahead, and I'm just going in a circle, and I'm just taking off excess paint that I have back here. Because I want, see how it's taking that off? I don't want it to be real slick. Now another thing I could do is just go ahead and finish the leaves, and just go ahead and let this dry, and then just paint right over the top of it. But I want to show you both ways, okay? So there's that. I'm just going to soften this back edge here so I don't have an edge on this. Okay, I'm going to make another little pansy back there, and I'm just going to toss this in the trash, and I will continue to put in other leaves here. Good morning, everyone. All right, we are back, and it's the next day. I went ahead and finished out leaves and little foliage back here. I have plenty of videos on how to do foliage, and I did show you how to do these leaves down here. So my canvas is completely dry, and what I did before I'm gonna start doing these pansies is I went ahead and put a light coat of this Jann Art Extender Medium. Now I'm using this sort of like the liquid clear on Bob Ross, to where once your canvas is dry you have acrylics and you want to start painting on the top of that, you put a thin coat of the liquid clear. Well, I'm using this like that. It's an extender that will leave my canvas damp so that when I start blending my colors, I won't be getting a dry blend, I'll be getting a wet blend. Now also, I went ahead and I have Deoxane Purple right here, and I also made up a light blue-gray color with white, dab of burnt sienna, and a dab of blue, and mixed it together, and I put about 4 drops in each one of the extender and mixed it in. So this already has extender in it because I'm using it as a base coat. And then I have the soft white here of their brand, which is, as I move forward, I want my paint to be a little thicker. So thick on thin, and if your paint is thick, then you want your top coat to be thinner. So I'm going to go ahead and put a coat of this blue right here, and I'm just using like a 16 or a half-inch brush, and it's going to put a thin coat for me because, let me show you the shine on this. See the shine? Okay, I'll let you know it has some medium on it. And I'm just putting in enough to cover this pansy. I want to call it a puppy. I'm so used to painting poppies. Anyway, they had this little pattern on the Bob Ross site, and I thought it was just so pretty. I wanted to go ahead and do it. Alright, I'm going to wipe my brush on my paper towel. Now I'm going to go into the dioxine purple, and I am going to do this one in the purple. See, we have one here, one up here, one on the side, and that'll be kind of covered underneath. Okay, now go ahead and wipe your brush off. Now I think at this point I'm going to go ahead and sketch in. I'm going to lay my brush in my water, and I'm going to sketch in my little pattern for the pansy. Now I can still see my pattern on the pansy here, but up here I want to sketch in a little bit so I know where I'm going. Okay, in the center, we're going to put the center right here. So I'm going to make this one a leaf, petal, and this one will be a petal. Let's have it come up a little bit up here, and they'll come meet like this. Looks like a pair of sunglasses. Okay, and then we're going to have a bigger petal up here, like that, and then these will be on the side. These right here will be on the side. Now you can see it's going to bleed into, because I have extender on, but when we do an overstroke, that will take care of that. Okay, so you got the little sunglasses here, and I've got 3 petals back here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. This one here, we have one here. And we have one here. That one's going to go over. 1, 2, 3. This one is a big one. Like that. And we have a small one back here. There we go. That's the center right there. Okay. That kind of gives you an idea where we're going to go. Now the next thing we will do is add our darks. So I'm going to use a filbert brush for that. And I use like a number 8 filbert. And I've got this dioxine purple. We're going to see if this will work. I may have to let this set up just a little bit and work on something else. We're going to try it here, and we're going to see. Like we have our deep purple here. Just don't press real hard when you put the paint on. Okay, then we're going to have deep purple right here, and we're going to have deep purple right here. Okay, now wipe the brush off, and then I am just going to feather this out some, like that. Okay, make it look like grass, pretty much. Okay, wipe your brush off. Now take this and do the same thing over here. Oops, can you see what I'm doing? Now we'll strengthen this. I just want to get it on here. Let it set up a little bit. Now we do have one up here. Let's see if we can put in. I may have to use a blue. Let's try a little more blue as opposed to. Yeah, I Okay, there's our center right there. Alright, what if we put a little blue in this one? That might be a little different too. A little bit of blue in that one. Okay. Alright, wipe the brush off. Now I am going to dip it in water here because it's a dark color. And I'm just going to lay it in my water bin here so that it won't dry up on me. I'm going to pick up my 16 brush. Now, to do these petals, actually, I think I'm going to use my big 3/4 inch brush. Because when I start overstroking the petals, well, this one I can use the 16. Okay, let's go back to the 16. Let me wipe my brush off. It's got water in it. I'm going to start pulling in some petals back here. Now I'd like to have a light purple, so I'm going to take a little bit of this purple here and I'm going to mix some of this blue in with it, just for a lighter purple here. And load both sides, and we're going to start an overstroke right here. Okay, I want to do the back petals first and then come forward. Okay, so we're going to touch, I'm going to touch to right at the outside edge here. Dress your brush again. Now these petals, they're not real ruffly. They are pretty straight. Okay, here we're going to touch. Pull in a little bit. Don't pull in all the way. Don't pull all the way down here and ruin all your darks. Just pull in a little bit. There we go. Dress the brush. Now we're going to do the front petal. I start in the center, touch and pull. I have plenty of videos showing how to do these edges, okay, if you want more instruction. Now let's come right over, come down so that we can see this petal. It comes right on around, okay? Lay on the side of that brush if you want a little curve on it. Let's say right here you want a little curve, and I'm just picking up a little, patting a little of that blue on so that I can, and I sit down on that brush. There we go. So that I get a rounded edge instead of a flat edge on it. Okay, and I'm patting into the blue and mixing it with the purple. Alright, touch and sit. I'm sitting down on that back edge so that I get a rounded edge on that. Touch, sit, and pull. Okay, okay, touch, sit, pull. There you go. Alright, now I'm not going to fuss with these very much because I can come back. This is going to remain wet for me, so I can come back and pat with it. Alright, let's go ahead and do these other front petals. And for these, we're just going to, let me tilt this up, okay? Touch, pull. There we go. And touch and pull. This one's going to actually go under. It's going to go under. the first one there. So you're not gonna see this here. Okay, now on this one, I'm gonna pull this one. This one's gonna come over it. Okay. Now that's that one. Now for the big one, I'm going to pick up some of the white. I'm going to go here in some white. Load my brush on both sides. And we have to start back here. Okay? Let's pull this up a little bit. We need to start here. Like that. There we go. Load our brush up again. It's going to pick up purple, but that's okay. Then let's do this one. Okay. I'm going to pull down just a little bit more on that. Alright, this one here. Now let's touch in the center. I'm going to dip my brush in a little medium. Now I will come back up and I will blend some more of that. When I get down here, wipe my brush off. I'm going to pick up more white. Let's go over here, touch and pull. Now to leave a little edge on this, which I don't mind. I don't mind that little edge that it's going to leave here. So I can blend that. Okay. I'm going to soften some of this, go right on into that. Wipe my brush each time. There we go. Okay. And want that color to come down, blend a little bit. Alright, I'm wiping my brush each time. That way it'll create some little folds here. There we go. Now, wipe the brush again. Now we have one more petal here. Okay, and that's this big one here. And I'm going to try to pick up some more white here. I'm going to start right in the center here. I want a little bend. I'm going to, they really don't have it. The edges on these are really smooth, but I like them a little ruffly. So I'm going to bend them a little bit. And then I'll smooth out the little ruffles. Okay. There we go. Or the little ridges, whatever you want to call them. Okay. Just make sure your petals are going in the right direction here. Now the next thing you can do, once you get these little petals in, I want it to set up a little bit. So I want to get out a little mop brush here. And you just want a little mini mop brush. Let's see if I can get a softer one. Let's see. This one's softer than this one. This one's a little stiff. All right. I got hair right here. And what I'm gonna do is, I need a paper towel here. I'm gonna flip this over so I have a paper towel here to wipe my brush on. All right, I have a dry mop. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this mop and pull some of this center part out. So it's fuzzy. And you need to wipe the back end of this brush off. Now, depending on how much floating or extender you have, or you put on your canvas, will depend on how hard you need to press on this. I'm pressing real hard, but I'm not pressing real soft either. And I'm fanning this out into the petal. Okay? I want it fanned out into the petal. And I might as well do this one too while I'm at it, so that you have a softer blend. Because that's what these little pansies do. Okay. There. So you fan it out as much as you want to. And then the next thing we're going to do is just a little bit of liner work. I'm just going to wipe that here, because I may come back and use that, okay? So what I can do next is I can come back and I can, after this sets up a little bit, I'll come back and I can highlight some of this. Right now, this is really wet. Let's get this down in the camera here. Right now, this is really wet because I do have extender on it. But if I let it set up a little bit and let it tack up some, then my highlights that I put on will stay on a lot better than if I try to put them on right now while it's wet. It's a little too wet for me right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at everything. I think I want a few more highlights in my leaves here. I'm going to let these set up, and when I come back I'll have these all finished out, and I'll show you how to finish out your irises and put your centers in, and then we'll be finished with this little painting. So I'll be back in a few. Now the next thing I want to do is put a little bud over here. And to do that, I don't want any extender on this area here. So what I did was I just took a paper towel, and the area that I'm going to put it, you can see there's no extender there. And all you do is put a paper towel over where you're going to put the bud, and just push down on it and blot that extra extender up. I have extender in my paint, so for this one I don't want it on the background because it will bleed too much. So let's make a little bell shape here, and I'm just going to touch and pull. Now let's let it come out like that. Let it feather out to the front here. All right. go. And I'm using a filbert brush here. Okay. Now for the top petals, I'm just going to pick up some white without extender on it, just right out of the tube. And I might pick up just a little bit of blue. Now I had purple in my brush, so it's actually going to come up a little bit, it's going to come up purple, a light lavender. There we go. Okay. There. Now wipe the brush off. I'm going to go into some green. I made sap green using just a green, a little bit of burnt sienna, and some ultramarine blue or phthalo blue, whichever one you have. And I'm going to do a little calyx right here on the end. Touch, pull off to a little chisel there. I'll come up, get a little curl there. There we go. And let's do a little curl down that way. Okay. Then put your little stem in it. Now you can highlight this. Let me pick up a little yellow. And I'll do a little petal with some yellow on it. So it just has a little highlight on it. Okay, and there's your a little bud here, or a little bloom. Now when that sets up a little bit, I may bring this further down, or you can leave it, whatever you want to do. Now if you want any other little buds in here, you can go ahead and put the little buds in here while you have it here. And also, if you want any highlights on your leaves. Now the last thing I'm going to do is put on my little centers here and pull them out. I deepen them with some of this dioxazine purple. And I put this on with just a little spotter brush, just enough to get a little bit thick. Then what I want to do is I want to come back and I want to pull out some of this just to reinforce that dark there. So I'm going to start up here and I'm going to pull out like that just to soften that edge. I'm going to pull these up here. Go. I want to still keep that really dark color in the center, so I'm really not touching the center, I'm touching the outside of it. So let's come up here, I'm going to touch the outside and pull. And I'm rotating around. But I'm still keeping that deep color in the center there. So I'm wet blending because I don't want a real dry blend, I want a wet blend. So this is still a little bit damp, but it's set up enough to where it will give me a nice little feather. And that's what I want. I want a nice little feather edge on it. Okay, I'm going to set that aside. I am going to pick up a little spotter brush like that. And I'm going to pick up some yellow and a little dab of burnt sienna. And I'm going to tap in the center here. Yellow with some burnt sienna. Okay, wipe my brush, reload, burnt sienna on one side, yellow on the other, and turn it sideways so I can get a little bit of both whenever I touch. The yellow's on the top. Let's do a little more. Okay, this one here. There we go. Bigger dots on that one. Now the next thing I want to do is these pansies have a little, I don't know what you call it, but it's just a little stroke that comes out right here. And it outlines it just a little bit. So we'll do that, touch, pull out. Now this one here, maybe I want, instead of white, I want maybe a little more blue in it for this top one. Okay, so I'm going to touch, pull out, go into the blue, touch, and pull it. So you're just outlining the top edge of that just a little bit. Now this one, it doesn't show up very well, so let's press down. There we go. Now it shows it on that top edge there. And I think we are finished with our pansies, unless... Alright, thank you everyone. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.